Hey, what's up, guys? This is Kevin. I'm going to do a live recording of the podcast episode today. Beyond Business is my podcast, available on iTunes, Spotify, Google, anywhere you consume your podcast. But a lot of people ask, like, how do you do it? Do you edit it? How do you edit it? I don't edit at all, really. I record straight from here. So I'm going to record the video. I'll take the audio from the video and put to the outlets. There are three parts of the podcast. There's the intro, which you'll hear. There's the body or the actual podcast, and then there's the outro. I record them all three live. None are canned. I don't have the same intro or outro every time. That's why you'll notice some differences between the two. But also it allows me just to kind of keep the real vibe. That's what I really want. So I hope you like this podcast episode. It's about stress, mitigating and reducing stress. I hope you like the process I go down. Please hit me up if you have any questions. Maybe you got some tips. I'd love some tips. Welcome back to the Beyond Business podcast. My name is Kevin. This is where we talk about things that are not necessarily on your P&L, but definitely impact your profit, your passion, and your life. Today, we're talking about stress, how to mitigate stress, reduce stress. I found one simple, strategic way that we can reduce stress, and it's not all that complicated. It's just not. I've noticed it time and time again in my life and business and my clients and friends and family. And so I want to share it with you today. And maybe it's just something you need awareness around, not something you need to go learn something new. So welcome back to the Beyond Business podcast. Stress is a challenging thing for a lot of us, especially over the last year through COVID. And for me and my family, the last 2 years, my son was diagnosed in 2019 with cancer. And last year, COVID, he ended up beating cancer. And so we're very grateful for that, but we're not immune from stress. We're not immune from high levels of stress, as you can imagine. So I want to share with you one of the key things that I've learned over the last 2 years that will help you reduce stress and manage it and understand it. And I think we have to understand how we behave as humans. So if you have a little stress in your life, maybe this is an episode for you, or maybe this is one you share with someone who does have stress in their life and you can help them out. But let's talk about the idea of stress. Stress is not bad, and stress gets a bad rap on a lot of levels, and stress is not necessarily bad. Too much stress is bad. That's what we really have to look at. Too much stress is bad. So how do we keep it at that healthy level? If you think about stress as working out in the gym, anytime you want to go to the gym, you want to get your muscles bigger or you want to get in shape, you have to put your body through a certain amount of stress. Now you have to limit that stress and you have to manage it. And too little stress and you don't get the results. Too much stress, you pull a hamstring. So you want that sweet spot of just enough stress to grow and push yourself and be motivated and all those things. But you don't want too much stress where it debilitates you and you experience burnout or empathy, or not empathy. Empathy would be great. Apathy was the word I was looking for. Or you won't experience any of those kind of things. But what you really want to look at, and that's kind of how stress works, is I think we fight so hard and spend so much energy trying to omit stress instead of just trying to manage it and put it in its place. You're never going to be able to omit stress. It works much like fear. You're never going to get rid of all the fear. But what you can do is understand it and use it. So I'm going to get right to it. This is probably going to be a relatively short episode, but I think if we just get right to the punch and move right along, then we can start practicing this and start managing our stress a little better. So if we think about stress and the point of stress as a story arc, and the story arc for stress acts in the opposite way that a traditional movie story arc would work. So the movie story arc, you would have your rising action, which would be your introductions, your build up, where things are relatively calm and it builds up. And then the most stressful point, or the most action packed point, would be the climax. And then you have your falling action to your resolution. So everyone's familiar with that sort of upside down curve that kind of starts out really slow and then gets really to the peak, and then it kind of falls back down and the movie is over. That's kind of the traditional story arc. Stress, as it pertains to this particular strategy, acts in the opposite way. The highest point of stress is at the beginning. Then it kind of falls off and it just keeps going down. So what is it that I'm talking about? If you think about anything in your life that is stressing you out, normally it has to do with you making a decision. Normally, it has to do with you making a decision, the decision to lose weight, the decision to get healthy, the decision to improve your marriage, the decision to be better in business, the decision to sell more, the decision to actually make a phone call, the decision to do anything. Stress leading up to that decision is probably at its highest. So that's exactly it. As we come into these stressful situations, it is a decision, a conversation, an action, something that happens that our stress is leading up to. The peak of stress is just before we make that decision. So just before we make that decision is our highest level of stress. So one of the things that I would like to do to omit stress is, one, I look at all the facts, make sure I'm operating on truth, not on speculation. I'll ask myself, is that true? Quite a bit, and not just a conversation I'm having in my head. We all have those. So I really want to make sure that I'm operating off truth. And then I say, I want to get to a decision as soon as possible. I don't want just any decision. I would like the right decision. So how do I do that? Well, I understand that leading into that decision is the highest points of stress. So by operating just in truth, I can reduce a little bit of that stress right away. And then by understanding that the sooner I make a decision, the sooner this stress is released and mitigated and goes down, then I can really be proactive in that decision. So if you look at what practice we can put into place, it is make a decision. What is your decision? A lot of times we don't make a decision because it involves a difficult conversation, or it involves doing something that's difficult, that's hard, or doing something that's unpleasant. And oftentimes when we do those things, that's when the greatest return is involved. So if you want to get healthy, you're going to have to sleep, eat right, and move your body. Not in that particular order, but you're going to have to do those three things on some level. Normally, there's some discomfort that comes with that. The reason there's discomfort is because you're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to change your routine. You're going to have to change your eating habits. You're going to have to change your sleeping habits. And so that really comes back to mitigating stress, not necessarily anything else than saying, I want to reduce my stress, so I've got to make some decisions. Now, once you make the decision, then it just becomes part of you. It just becomes part of what you do. You form that habit over time, and it just becomes part of what you do. So something that was incredibly stressful at first, in one way, meaning if it is your health or your business, money, or whatever it is, if it's incredibly stressful, then when you just tackle that, make a decision, start taking action, tackle it, the stress goes down because we're in action. If you think about emergency situations, for me, I was a lifeguard years and years ago, and a lifeguard trainer. And one of the things that we always talked about was you have to make the decision. And once you make the decision, you have to execute. And so the first thing we would do in ocean lifeguarding is you have to determine whether it's safe for you to go in. Meaning the last thing you want to do is put more people in danger, including yourself. So if someone's in a situation and you assess that situation, you determine it to be more dangerous for you to be in the water than out of the water, then you probably don't go or wait and find another solution for more people to come, more lifeguards. And so, but once you decide, then you act. If it is that crucial point of, yes, I'm going in, or no, I'm not. Once you get in the water, it's all about execution. Right. So if you decide to go in the water and you hit the water, now stress is over, adrenaline takes over, everything, knowledge kicks in, resources, your habits that you're training, everything kicks in, and now you're just executing. So there's no time to be stressed or scared. There's only time to react. And you'll be stressed and scared later, probably, if it's a dire situation. But that really is it. If you decide, hey, it's too dangerous for me to go in the water, I'm not going to go in, your stress will continue until you find another suitable option. And then you decide on that, and then you move forward. Then stress is released. That really is how every decision in life is for us on some level. Not as stressful as that, obviously, but our biggest stress is leading up to decision. Once we make a decision and we commit to executing and taking action, then our stress goes down because we're just in do mode. We're not in analyze, think, overthink, contemplate, compromise. We're not doing all of those things. What we are is we're just saying, I made this choice and now here's my action. If you think about, the love lives of younger people, or anybody really, but it really is that, if you're going to break up with someone and you think that this most stressful going into that conversation, you have that conversation, you get your stuff, you get out, and then stress is released. But the action was having that difficult conversation with someone you care about. Right. In my marriage, it's the same way. If I know I've done something wrong, having that conversation, say, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. or whatever the case may be. Normally that's around spending money or groceries. So there's that. So when we look at this, at the story arc of stress, it starts at its highest right before decision. So if you can commit awareness to yourself and say, here's my awareness. I'm going to be super aware that once I get to decision, stress goes down. So I need to get to decision as early as possible. I still need to make strong decisions, but I want to get there as soon as possible. So how do I do that? I really come back to this element of climbing into the situation with enough knowledge based on truth, not based on emotions or feelings or what I think might happen, but based on actual truth. That allows me to get to decision earlier. If I get to decision earlier, I manage stress. It doesn't mean I'm never going to have stress. It just means I'm going to be able to manage stress. So one of the things that we did when my son was in treatment is sometimes actively, but most of the time quietly, is we decided that we couldn't change reality. We couldn't change the truth. So our stress around what should be going on and what was going on could be very different. But what we had to do is take the facts that we were given from our doctors, get to a point of decision, make that decision, and then go. And just until we got different information. And what that did is that reduced the stress in the moment. We committed to a path of treatment. We made sure we showed up every day, made sure we were present in the moment, and we kept charging down that path until new information, new truth came to us. We would make another decision. That didn't omit stress by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, there were moments where stress was incredibly high and incredibly higher than other times. But with that process in our hip pocket, it allowed us to say, even though stress is high, it's not forever, and we're able to control it a little more. We couldn't change the truth, but we could control our response to the truth. So if you're feeling stressed in your life, you're feeling like things are going on, really look at what decision do you need to make you have not made yet. And can you make that decision today? Most commonly, it's what decision have you already made you haven't acted on? And that's creating stress. I've decided that I don't want this job anymore. I've decided I don't want this relationship anymore. I've decided I want to have more money. I've decided I don't need this much money. I don't want to go for $1 million. I don't want, like, where have you made a decision that you just haven't acted on? And that's creating stress. And today you need to make that decision, act on it, and reduce that stress. That's how it works. So I hope this helped you. I hope this is the one key thing that I found over the last couple of years that really helped me reduce my stress, mitigate stress, and also just understand it a little deeper, that I know once I get to decision and I make that decision and I start moving forward, I get incremental feelings of relief until I really get to a point of really understanding it. So I hope you got a lot out of this stress talk. I hope you're not feeling too stressed. If you are, just take a step back, take a breather, take a pause, and say, hey, what decision can I make today that would help me reduce my stress? It can be a small micro decision. It doesn't have to be the big decision. Make a small decision. That's progress. What decision have I already made that I just haven't acted on? How can I act on that? How can I really take that and say, okay, it's time. It's really time. So hope you got a lot out of this. This is Kevin. Thanks for joining me today on the Beyond Business Podcast. I want to remind you that in June, we've got our big life event coming up. This year's focus is on breakthrough. We'll be doing breakthrough in June and September. June is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. There are 10 seats, about 3 left. We have a high impact experiential transformation event over 2 days. It's a Friday and a Saturday. We'd love to have you there. Just reach out to me via email, kevin@kevinhoover.org, if you would like information on that. And always take note of the things coming up. We've got our PDB continuity membership, all things training. Right now, we've got the Path to Purpose in there. We've got the 7-figure schedule, and we've got Creating Your Movement. Those are the 3 digital courses you're involved. It's $397 for lifetime membership. You get 3 new courses every quarter. That's 12 a year for life for $397. So if you like that, go to pdbpartners.com, check the survey, reach out to me, and we'll get you set up with that. As always, Beyond Business, things that are not on your P&L, but definitely impact your life, your passion, your purpose, and your business. This is Kevin. We'll see you next time.